Jasmine Crockett. The leftist base just seems to love her feisty attitude. However, of course, she can't seem to stop taking L's during this House Judiciary Committee hearing, as is going to be pointed out here by Kevin Kiley. But before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
I am curious, does it look like you're fighting for life when you cut 17 million people off of their health care?
It does not.
Does it look like you're fighting for life when you're kicking people in this country? I want to be clear, we're talking about the United States, in this country, off of food assistance?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Well, this hearing supposedly is being about radical leftists and whatnot. And you know what? Earlier, someone mentioned these hellholes, talking about the cities, right? Talking about cities being hellholes. I just want to point to Los Angeles. I'm sure that's one of the cities they were referring to when they said that. Los Angeles contributes almost $20 billion in taxes. You know what? That's more than all states in this country except for 4. So guess what? If we are going to push any ideologies, it seems like LA should have an outsized interest in the ideology, because it seems like they actually contribute more money than all these other states, especially these red states, to be clear. In fact, I have another UC.
Without objection.
All right, blue states are bailing out red states. I have another UC.
Without objection.
Massachusetts sends more funding to the feds than any other state. It seems like blue states are constantly putting red states on life support, yet we got these little red states that ain't contributing nothing, but they are definitely taking up a lot of money. You know, it is interesting because the governor in California, I don't know if you caught this, but Governor Newsom was talking about just holding on to his dollars because California is what they call a donor state.
We'll now recognize Mr. Kiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did want to briefly address a comment that the ranking member, the representative from Texas, made about my state, California, claiming that our state gives disproportionately to the federal government and is some sort of donor state. Actually, the state of California gives nothing to the federal government. Individuals and businesses do pay taxes, and Governor Newsom's suggestion that we should withhold those taxes, as our Treasury Secretary has pointed out, is threatening to commit the felony of criminal tax evasion. As to this notion that Los Angeles is somehow a model of good governance, just today Los Angeles came out with its new homelessness numbers. The current count is 72,308. The police chief in LA has formally advised people not to wear jewelry when they go outside because they will get mugged. The city just announced 614 layoffs because the finances are such a mess. And this is to say nothing of the recent riots and the catastrophic wildfires that came after the mayor defunded the fire department. But on to the topic of today's hearing. It's bad enough that we have all of this funding going towards NGOs that then support radical ideological causes. Sort of the logical next step that we've seen is funding organizations that then directly commit or facilitate criminal activity. And this is exactly what we saw with respect to the recent riots in Los Angeles, where you had a group known as CHRA, the Center for Humane Immigration Rights Los Angeles, that played a central role in organizing the riots. They made use of a hotline through Signal where they would inform rioters at any given moment where ICE personnel could be found, so those individuals could then converge, they could disrupt their operations, they could use commercial dumpsters as battering rams, they could assault officers, and so forth. CHRA, by the way, has been implicated in other ways in all of the recent chaos that we've seen. For example, the incident where tire spikes were used to disable the vehicles of Border Patrol. The individuals engaging in these crimes were carrying the tire spikes in bags with CHRA's name on them. And to top it all off, Karen Bass's recent proposal to give cash cards to illegal immigrants supposedly affected by ICE operations are being distributed to them by, you guessed it, CHRA. So I've introduced a bill, the No Tax Dollars for Riots Act, which will make sure that organizations like this do not continue to get funding, and indeed that they cannot claim tax-exempt status. President Trump has enthusiastically endorsed that bill and said it should be passed immediately. On top of that, this committee, the House Judiciary Committee, has opened an investigation into CHRA's use of the federal funding that it received during the Biden administration. It also received $35 $34 million from California, accounting for the vast majority of its revenue. It's effectively a subsidiary of the state, or a subsidiary of the sanctuary state, if you will.
So Jasmine Crockett's going to try to pretend that California is this mecca that the rest of the country should be really trying to model after. And of course, Gavin Newsom is the bestest governor ever, right? Despite the fact that Kevin Kiley is pointing out, hey, homelessness is up, it's out of control with no end in sight. Crime is up, it's out of control with no end in sight. And by the way, those wildfires where only a few permits have actually been made available to people to rebuild their homes, right? All of that was huge examples of government failure. The reservoirs were not full and the firefighters were not fully staffed. And all of that goes to just show how poorly the state was managed. But of course, Jasmine Crockett's going to come out and say that, oh, because LA generates so much money in revenue, then obviously we should take their morality and put it up on a pedestal for the rest of the country, which just ain't going to happen given all of the problems I just listed. But of course, she's also going to come out and say that, oh, Donald Trump, he's actually cutting back on things like healthcare and Medicare, etc. Well, guess who else is doing that, Jasmine? It's Gavin Newsom, right? He has a $12 billion budget deficit, and in order to help close that deficit, he's kicking migrants off the healthcare rolls. All right, so even though he talks a big game, he says all of the right things to the left anyway, he's not actually following through with it because financially it doesn't make any sense. So apparently the illegal immigrants are a net drain on our society, and yes, the Medicare and Medicaid rolls should be more closely sought after if it can actually close budget shortfalls, as Gavin Newsom is apparently finally finding out. And of course, what tax dollars are collected from the citizens of California are actually being spent on these organized, peaceful protests against ICE. Okay, you have this CHRA organization getting $34 million from the taxpayers of California and the rest of the country, funneling it through their organization like all of these NGOs are doing, and then, of course, organizing our own destruction, which, of course, sounds awfully insurrection-y to me, okay? But, of course, that's exactly what this hearing is all about, trying to find all of these NGOs that are actively working against the citizens of this country. But don't tell that to Jasmine Crockett. Instead, she's going to grandstand and say how wonderful places like California are and how awful you are for thinking otherwise. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me.
Would you say it's time for everyone to panic? Yes, I would, Kent.
Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.